And the deadline to opt out of House Bill 581 is fast approaching. Find out why one county is ditching the bill.
According to the Madison County Sheriff's Department, a lot of people who are on parole end up back in jail not much later. More on the story as it develops. I'm Grady Newsource at 5.
The National Forest Service had some type of controlled burn from yesterday, and then just the atmospheric conditions were in such a way that the smoke settled down on the roads, and it was, very little to no visibility on the roadways, and so that's what we were down there doing.
These stories and more
tonight on Grady Newsource.
This is Northeast Georgia's only local source for TV news. From the Grady College at the University of Georgia, this is Grady Newsource.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rachel Sandstrom.
And I'm Gunter Schroeder. This is Grady Newsource.
ICE has made their presence in Athens, and first responders tell us what goes on behind the scenes during overdose calls. Stay tuned tonight to hear those updates. The state of Georgia has a number of programs for reducing the rate in which former inmates may find themselves back in jail. Reporter Eddie Newbert explains some of the challenges to the people who are charged with helping to keep them from going back.
This is a GPS monitor. It's what Chris Fogel and his team of probation officers use to keep up with some of those who may serve time outside of a jail cell.
The hardest part is the case management part and managing 100 to 150 people.
You may find these here too. This is a breathalyzer kit.
It alerts them at certain times of the day to where they have to blow. It's kind of like the ones people put in their cars for if they have DUI.
These are just a few of the tools that help law enforcement keep track of people on probation. It's a tough job because some of these probationers wind up in conflict with the law again.
From a human standpoint, I think it's disheartening to see it come a lot sometimes, but we don't look at it as an aggravation. We supervise the cases the courts give us.
In Madison County, Captain Jimmy Patton says despite the supervision, some manage to slip the system.
I don't think it's lack of supervision on the part of parole officers. I think it's just they have a huge caseload. It's hard for them to probably put the time they need to in each individual parole leave.
And these tools, they may not always work because
they know the tricks.
Grady Newsource, I'm Eddie Newbert.
Students at the University of Georgia have taken action to prevent opioid overdoses by placing Narcan, a life-saving treatment, in downtown Athens bars. We also explored the fear and reality of calling police during an opioid overdose. Today, Aaron has another update on police protocol.
More of those shortages are happen in the bigger hospitals when you have to do sort of a mass transfusion protocol, or whether you need multi-units of blood to help those traumatic injuries or whatever is currently going on. I think it sort of just falls on deaf ears. I think some people, if you ask them, do you think there's a shortage of their blood? I'm probably sure about 90% will say yes, but do they?
We apologize for that technical difficulty. We'll come back to the studio for now.
Around every 2 seconds, someone in the U.S. needs blood. Our reporter Blake is in the studio with how anybody can help save a life with a simple act.
Happen.
Nearly 16 million blood components are used in the United States every year. But over the past 20 years, the American Red Cross has found the number of donations per year to have dropped by 40%. Chris King, the chief clinical officer at the Landmark Hospital in Athens, spoke about how this affects how patients are treated.
More of those shortages are happen in the bigger hospitals when you have to do sort of a mass transfusion protocol, or whether you need multi-units of blood to help those traumatic, injuries or whatever is currently going on. I think it sort of just falls on deaf ears. I think some people, if you ask them, do you think there's a shortage of their blood? I'm probably sure about 90% will say yes, but do they understand that if they donate that they can use to your unit and spread it out and they can help at least 4 to 6 people? Probably not.
Last summer, the Red Cross saw 25% of its supply drop in the summer, which led to an emergency blood shortage. The only solution to these shortages are more blood donations. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Blake. That sounds like a great way to give back to the community.
We'll be back after the break, bringing you updates on immigration.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers. He connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far. A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Welcome back to Grady Newsource. We'll now hear more from reporter Aaron Pagenkopf about the addition of Narcan to some downtown Athens bars and the overall opioid crisis in Athens-Clarke County.
They're afraid of being accused of a drug crime.
It only takes a few seconds to call 911, yet people are scared to call the emergency line for a number of reasons. But when it comes to possible opioid overdoses, most people say it is the fear of arrest.
Because it's an illegal substance, or it might be an illegal substance where they might get in trouble and arrested just for having access to it. I would imagine that would be the biggest barrier to calling the police.
And an overdose is just a serious matter.
Yeah, that should take precedence. I mean, people should call 911 and seek help, be it from the police or an emergency provider. Frankly, more likely from an emergency provider.
Emergency services put in place Good Samaritan laws, allowing those seeking help to be granted a certain degree of immunity according to the CDC. Calling 911 is the start of emergency services protocol, where the call is then directed to first responders, who are then directed to the location of the emergency.
If it's specifically stated that it's suspected as an opioid overdose, then we know there's a higher chance that may be the case. We don't know what we have till we get there and start seeing, looking at the patient.
Attribute this. Witnesses to opioid overdoses should not fear calling 911, as first responders are more focused on the patient than making arrests.
I have specifically looked people in the eye and said, hey, look, if there's something that y'all taking, that this person's taking, you're not going to get in trouble.
Since July 2024, Athens-Clarke County has made no arrests involving undocumented immigrants, signaling a shift in local law enforcement practices.
Joining us live, reporter DeAndre Harris has more.
July, the new House Bill of 1105, this is giving cops probable cause to check for undocumented documents. So what that means is a simple traffic stop can get you detained. Here's more.
Been two recent changes in the law that requires us to notify immigration enforcement once we have contact with someone who is not here, who is not documented.
But Salters has yet to make the first contact. It's because since July, there has not been one undocumented immigrant arrested. But if they do, Salters assures the public he will make that call.
Probable cause to make an arrest, then we must make an arrest and also notify immigration enforcement.
DeAndre Harris, Grady Newsource.
Thanks, DeAndre, for that update. House Bill 1105 received nearly unanimous bipartisan support in the Georgia State Assembly, passed a statewide referendum in November, but now some local officials are far from thrilled about proposed tax reductions on homestead properties.
So just to be honest, this is
probably one of the most complicated bills that I've ever seen.
Todd Higdon used this example to show just how complicated. About a third of property owners in Madison County already get one homestead exemption, but take a look at this presentation. Using consumer price indexes from previous years, the board determined that had House Bill 581 gone into effect in 2021, by 2024 the county would have lost up to $2.5 million. And while he can't predict what future exemptions look like, Higdon says that they would hurt.
Anytime you put tax exemption on a bill, that's the clickbait that they clicked on. Problem is they didn't understand the repercussions of what they clicked on.
Leah Howland voted in favor of the tax cut, and she says she understands this much.
But your counties, your people, everybody that representing you is telling you they want it, and you're like telling them no. It's kind of insane.
Howland is referring to the provision in the bill that allows counties to opt out of the tax cuts, even if the voters said they wanted them. And that's exactly what Madison County is doing.
This is not as simple as cut and dry as we're trying to give taxpayers a break for homestead. This is a lot bigger than that.
Higdon adds that he spent some time explaining how the cuts would negatively affect Madison County. The board held 3 public hearings discussing the bill, but others like Howland, they're standing firm.
Oh, I mean, the cost of living is just extremely high. Groceries are high, everything's high, bills are high. It's like, if you can't even give people just the simplest tax break that they voted for.
But the Madison County School Superintendent Joseph Goodrow also said the tax reductions just wouldn't make sense for his system.
It might work for systems that have, a good bit of commercial and industry or a good bit of non-homestead property. We don't. We're heavy homestead property.
But he did lend to some other potential tax breaks.
We are going to look at a possible way to help out, really more on an elderly piece to try to help out on taxes.
Reporting in Danielsville, Jack Keys, Grady Newsource.
Next up, a bill that intends to reduce the list of government regulations restricting small businesses is on its way to the Georgia State House. If passed, the bill, known as the Red Tape Rollback Act, would also give state lawmakers more power over state agencies responsible for passing regulation. State Republicans like Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones liken the bill to a state version of DOGE, the government agency currently rapidly decreasing federal spending. A similar measure to this stalled in the Georgia House in last year's legislative session, so House Republicans will need to unify their vote and advance the bill to get it to Governor Brian Kemp's desk. Up next, the redemption era for Georgia basketball is here. Could we see the Bulldogs in the March Madness bracket? Rachel will be in the studio to talk UGA men's and women's basketball after this break.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile. My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. It's time to start saving now. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back from the break, and today we are talking about Georgia basketball. The UGA men's basketball team will face off against Texas this Saturday, March 1st. That's coming off of their big win against number 3 ranked Florida, ending with a final score of 88-83. This was the team's first win over a top 3 ranked team since defeating Georgia Tech in 2004. That's more than 20 years ago. It's a big win for them. That game ended with a score of 83-80. Bowen Corley plays recreational basketball on a co-ed team, so safe to say she's a big fan of the Dogs. Let's hear more.
On any given night, if we play well, if we make shots, if we're defending the ball and rebounding, we can win. And so going into the SEC tournament, you know, if we win that sucker, we're in. We're in the big tournament, and like, who knows what we could do there. So it's just exciting. We haven't made the tournament in a while.
Head coach Mike White says this win was special.
Even with the losses, there's a gradual ascension, I think, of this team since the fall, and that showed tonight. It showed at Auburn, and we're playing pretty well. But how do you continue to play well? You gotta continue to work and stay focused on the right stuff.
While men's basketball seems to be on the up and up, it's not the same story for the UGA women's basketball team, unfortunately, with 10 wins and 18 losses this season. The women's team plays at 6 p.m. tomorrow night against Auburn. Reporters Holly K. O'Brien and Ion Bakley have updates on smoke causing road closure and recent fires here in Georgia. Stay tuned. Up next, after the break, Gunter Schroeder will give you the 5-day forecast heading into the weekend. We'll be right back.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
You're home before sunrise, on top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand, trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Welcome back to Grady Newsource, and thanks again, Rachel, for that sports update. Sure sounds like Georgia basketball could be right on the cut line as we get towards the NCAA tournament, but they'll have to win a few more games, and that Texas game will be a huge one. But welcome back with the weather. We've got your 5-day forecast and some great weather ahead the rest of the week. The Athens weather has been great so far this week, as we mentioned Wednesday today. 75 is the high, 49 the low, and clear skies. Temperatures climbing continuously as we get towards spring break and the end of February. But tomorrow we will have a small chance of showers in the early afternoon, probably about 20% or so. But it should clear up by tomorrow night to make way for some more sun on its way on Friday. 66 degrees the high and 44 the low, and some more warm weather as well. Another sunny day back near the 70s Saturday afternoon. But the weather should cool back off Saturday night. We dip into the high 30s before the temperature drops about 10 degrees or so into Sunday afternoon. A high of 59 degrees gives way to the return of near freezing temperatures into Sunday night with a low of about 34. Next up, wildfires in Georgia and a road closure near Highway 15 in Oconee County. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break with those updates.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far. A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Your home before sunrise. On top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back from the break. We're joined live in the studio by reporter Holly Kate O'Brien, who has updates on a fire that caused a road blockage near Highway 15. Over to you, Holly Kate.
Thanks, Rachel. Highway 15 south of Ashendale Road is back open as of 11 a.m. this morning. The reason for the closure? Well, last night the National Forestry Service held a controlled fire, which is also known as a prescribed fire. This morning, residents of Oconee County witnessed extremely thick fog and smoke near the Iron Horse statue, as you see on the screen. I spoke to Brian Tomlinson of Watkinsville about why prescribed fires happen and what it takes to put one on. Prescribed fires happen to renew plant growth in forests, but also for wildlife to complete their life cycle and reproduce to be a part of the food chain. As far as how controlled fires are organized, there are specific regulations to have flames in the forest.
Have a prescription in place, and that involves certain temperatures, certain humidity. We have to have convection, we have to have lift. Just like with thunderstorms get big because of lift.
Thank you for that knowledge. Hopefully that answers some of your questions, because I know it answered some of mine as I was on site today in the fog. Joining me today, digital reporter Ian Bockley has more on another fire in Georgia, this time a wildfire. Ian, what do you have?
Seymour's garage turned into this big one. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Thanks, Holly Kate. It's been a wildfire season here in Georgia, and Commerce has experienced one of its first. These photos from this scene show where a small fire in a junkyard near Seymour's garage turned into this big one.
Sorry again for the technical difficulties. It's wildfire season here in Georgia, and Commerce has experienced one of its first. These photos from the scene show where a small fire in a junkyard near Seymour's garage turned into a big one. And from there, strong winds spread the flames to these trees. Investigators don't know yet what started this fire, but officials say that debris and humans are the leading causes of wildfires in Georgia. North Georgia is one of the most affected areas by wildfires. Again, we're sorry for the technical difficulties. Stevenson advises keeping a water tank nearby and maintaining distance when setting a fire. If caught in a wildfire, move downhill quickly. Burned grass can be a safe spot.
Thanks for those updates, Ion and Holly Kate. If you live in a high-risk area, take note of what that safe spot would look like for you and stay safe this wildfire season.
Coming up next, this Saturday is Georgia Beer Day. And on an occasion like this, Athens is not one to back down.
Yeah, Rachel, I'm not sure if you're a beer person, but 73 bars in Georgia are participating this year, including one of Athens' favorites, Creature Comforts Brewery.
I'm not personally a beer person, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like some people in Athens definitely are. This annual event celebrates Georgia beer and the Georgia Craft Brewers Guild, who call themselves the voice of craft beer in Georgia. Every dollar spent will go to them, and you will be able to get a limited edition pint from the breweries participating. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, that'll be a great way to start off the month of March this Saturday. But that's all we have for you tonight. Thanks again for tuning in. For Grady Newsource, I'm Gunter Schroeder.
And I'm Rachel Sandstrom. This was Grady Newsource. We'll see you next Monday.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers. He connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far.
A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Where's our producer? Oh, she's still producing. So let's talk about good stuff and opportunities for improvement. We had some pretty good wins today. I think some people demonstrated some real incremental improvement, and that's important, especially in terms of understanding the content of what we're doing. We're still struggling with you're doing grown-up news. It's not just campus. You're getting beyond the arch, and it's really hard. And sometimes we just don't know the questions to ask because you don't have the experience. So some of that, you know, not to be a controlled wildfire. Wait, that's an oxymoron, isn't it? Not to be one of Holly Kate's controlled fires here, but sometimes you're going to burn your fingers a little bit as you come back here and you're writing your story. And I'm going, but what about this? And you're like, oh dear, did not think to ask that. Don't get all weird about it. That's going to happen. You know, you're not, heaven help me. If you guys were like, oh yeah, I know all about jail. Oh yeah, I did my time, and you know, or oh sure, I've bought 12 houses and I know all about property tax stuff. You don't have a duty to know it, but you have a duty to be curious and to question. And I think now you all should have enough confidence to be able to comfortably sit with someone and say, I am somewhat of a jack of all trades, a master of none. Because one of the beautiful things about